Billy Donovan has taken a Chicago Bulls team that was in the middle of a rebuild that really seemed to have no end in sight into a team that some people consider contenders right now. And he did that in a very, very short period of time. Now, if you don't know, there was a stretch of 5 years where the Chicago Bulls did not make any playoff games, didn't make playoffs at all. And that was between the gap of Jimmy Butler and Rajon Rondo, D Wade, all these pieces, and then they got rid of them. Zach LaVine was brought in. Jimmy was traded to the Timberwolves. We had a couple years there where we had, just terribleness as an organization. Games were tough, all that stuff. And then Billy Donovan is brought in just last year. And in a very short period of time, Billy Donovan has turned this team completely around. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So if you enjoy this video, give me a like. If you enjoy this channel and you come back on a consistent basis anyways, why not subscribe? Because I have daily NBA, NFL, and NHL content. But let's not waste any more of your time. Billy Donovan has made the Bulls into contenders again. Now, my favorite quote from Billy Donovan's introduction to the team, his press conference, was a quote that he said about, I think, like 5 or so minutes in to the press conference, and this is on the Chicago Bulls YouTube channel if you do want to go check it out. The quote is, he was asked, what is the goal with the Chicago Bulls? What's your goal in building this team? And he said, I want to continue to build, continue to get better, and continue to improve the group. And I think that's something that he definitely has continued to do time and time again as things have progressed. Not only last year and bringing in guys like Vooch, deciding to draft Patrick Williams, but also this past year bringing in DeMar, bringing in Lonzo, bringing in Caruso, Ayo Dosunmu, and as we've continued to see this year, bringing in just some smaller supporting cast pieces. So I just want to talk about the things that he's done to make this team a contender again. So the first thing is probably the most obvious, especially if you look at the roster how it is now compared to a couple years back, and that's acquiring talent. Billy's able to, and plenty capable of and happy to, make a risk. And that's what he did last year. He makes a risk to trade for Vucevic at the trade deadline, moving Wendell Carter in this move, along with a couple other pieces, to a Magic team that I think the Magic might have been right there at the playoffs as well. They bring in Vooch to the Chicago Bulls, and the Bulls are sitting there right in a playoff caliber team, playoff contention team, just right outside. I think they were the 10th seed at the time of the trade, maybe the 9th seed. Now, Vooch was just coming off his second All-Star game, literally just occurred, and the team was 19-24 before this trade occurs. Now, when Vooch joins the team, there was a little bit of struggle there where they only won like 10 or 3 games in a 10-game stretch. It was really tough, but that's bound to happen when you bring in a new piece, a brand new piece to a team, and especially to a team that isn't already firing on all cylinders. But they end up finishing the season 31-41, missed the playoffs. They were the 11th seed, and there was a lot of reasons for this, lots of struggles after this acquisition, but not really because of Vooch. I think Vooch played very well when he joined the team. There were just a lot of outside issues that occurred. Zach LaVine ended up missing like 11 games due to COVID-19, which definitely was a huge part of that, especially since the Bulls were only like 2 games outside of being in the playoffs. Now, not only did he take the risk on Vooch, but he also took a risk on this sign and trade with DeMar DeRozan that he just did these last offseason. Now, DeMar was graded as one of the worst signings in the offseason. If you don't remember that, I know it's quite funny. By many, honestly, but I think Bleacher Report was one that reported him as the worst signing. But he proved many people wrong. He was an all-star for a good portion of the year. He was an MVP candidate. And he just did a really good job. But it all came at the risk of what Billy Donovan was willing to give up to bring in DeMar and overpay. At least at the time, they believed that. Also that, but he became the number 1 option pretty quick on this team and just really showed how much worth he brought to the team and how much that risk was worth. Now, another risk that occurred was bringing in Lonzo Ball. And although that there were some tampering allegations that occurred and the Bulls lose their, believe, second round pick because of it. It still worked out pretty well. ZO2 was one of the top two-way guards and distributors when he was healthy for the Bulls. There's some incredible plays that we watch, like the full court pass to Zach LaVine before the 360 dunk. He was always playing really good on both offense and defense. He can shoot, but sadly he missed a lot of time. But I expect when things get rolling, when he gets healthy, when the season starts, he's going to get right back into things. One of the key contributors to this team when they were winning, especially on the defense side of things. Now, another thing that Billy is able to do, and he's very good at doing, is adding youth, bringing in youth that can immediately make an impact. And as we all know, he's done a really good job at that. His first year with the team, he brings in Patrick Williams with the 4th overall pick, and although it was a pick that many people thought was a bad choice, over time we've grown to love Patrick Williams. A lot of people think that he's untradeable. Me a part of that. I wouldn't say untradeable, but it's really hard for me to put him in a trade package because I think he has a lot of talent. He was all rookie second team his very first year. Then he was a starting power forward for the team for the better half of last year. And when he was healthy this year, he's one of the top defenders on this team. He can guard 1 through 5 pretty consistently, and he can even guard those top players like Giannis that we saw him guard in the playoffs this past year. He also showed his ability to score a little bit. I don't know why I just froze there and stuttered. He showed his ability to score in that last game, although it wasn't a really important game, although the other starters weren't playing. He showed that when he is that number one option, he can score. And although that might not seem incredible, that also means when you're the number one option, you have the number one defender on you, and sometimes two, and he was still able to put up a really good game. Now, another pick that the Bulls brought in, and Billy Donovan brought in, was Ayo Dosunmu, a player that all of us, again, love. He brought so much immediate impact to this team last year, all rookie second team. The immediate impact that he brought on offense and defense. He was a starter for a couple games there, especially with Lonzo missing game, Alex Caruso missing time. He was a starter for a good solid amount of the games this year, and he played crucial minutes in close games, even when people were healthy. He was able to play defense, able to pass the ball effectively, and he can shoot pretty consistently. I think Ayo Dosunmu was an incredible steal, probably the best steal of the entire draft last year, but his ability to immediately make an impact on this team was well felt. Now this year, the Bulls bring in Dalen Terry with the first round in the 18th overall pick. And although we haven't seen much from Terry, he just played his first game in Summer League yesterday, and I think he had, a okay stat line. It was 6 assists. He can pass that rock. He was very good. 6 assists, 6 turnovers, although some of them came off of offensive fouls, which kind of were terrible, and not a ton of points, but he still scored a pretty decent rate. He shows a lot of potential, as we all know, especially like we saw yesterday, and he can also play both ways, offensively and defensively. And yesterday, you can say that he played good defensively, but again, you're not playing these top guys yet, so you can't really make a full assessment on that. But in college, we did see that he played at a very high level on that defense side of the thing, and he has good size. He's 6'6", I think. He has a 7-foot wingspan, incredible size. He can play 1 through 3. He can probably guard 1 through 4. He's going to be what I would assume, if he gets the right minutes, a pretty quick impact on this roster, depending on how he plays and where he plays, especially with the amount of depth that this team has at that guard position. Now, the last thing that Billy Donovan has brought to this team is player development. Now, the first guy that I think of when I think of player development, the Bulls and Billy Donovan, is Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine, who was just brought back on an incredibly large deal, the biggest deal ever in Bulls history, ever, including Michael Jordan's deal. Really big news there. $200-some million on a 5-year budget. I think maybe the 5th year was a player option. Really, really, really good pickup for me, if you call it a pickup. Re-signing, I love the re-signing. Zach was never an all-star before Billy comes in. Billy's first year, Zach's an all-star, and he does it again this year. Both years with Billy as coach, Zach LaVine is an all-star. He also went from a dunker only type of player with just pure athleticism and could go get a bucket, to one of the best 3-point shooters in the league, a top dunker. He can get the ball going on offense, and he can get him, he improved a good amount on defense side of things. And that definitely comes with the coach's ability to help with player development. I think that's a big part of that. And I'm not going to go too in-depth on Zach LaVine because, sneak peek, I have a full-length video that I'm going to be dropping here in the next week or so about Zach LaVine and just how much he's improved and, sneak peek, why I think this next year is going to be Zach LaVine's best year by far. Now, some other players that Billy helped a lot with player development was Javonte Green. He comes from the Boston Celtics. He was really never showed much of anything. He was a decent shooter, good splits, but he never had a full shot, never had enough minutes, honestly. This past year, Javonte Green had a career high in points per game, rebounds per game, steals per game, and he was an effective shooter the whole way through. Now, we didn't have his best shooting splits this year, but he was pretty darn close. He did really, really good, and he was a big part of this team and a really good part of that defense off that bench, leading in steals per game. And I guess a starter for a part of the year when Patrick Williams was not playing. Another person that, you could say Billy helped with player development on, but more turning back the clock, was DeMar DeRozan. He took DeMar DeRozan from being on the decline of his career, maybe not a steep decline, but he was starting to get older. We were starting to see, some of his scoring fall off, but he was getting better at passing, things like that. That's what we saw with the Spurs. And Billy took him from the worst signing in all last season to his career best season ever. His best season ever, I would argue. And I have a full-length video on that if you would like to go check that out. But incredible year. I think it's the most points that he scored in a single season, averaging really, really good numbers, assists and rebounds-wise. Played pretty solid defense, which is something that a lot of people like to say that he's not very good at. And people always say that he is, falls off when it comes to the playoffs. He had some pretty important games during this playoff stretch for the Bulls, and although they did lose in round one, he was still a very big part of keeping him in games for as long as he could, as well as winning the one game that the Bulls won. I believe it was only one. So Billy Donovan, overall, has not only improved the Bulls from a rebuilding team that only really had Zach LaVine to a full contender with so many pieces. I mean, let's take a look. I'm gonna bring it off the top of my head. I'm not gonna Google it. Let's take a look at the roster before Billy and the roster after Billy. Kobe White, he's currently still on the team. He was probably your starting point guard, I believe, the year before Billy got here. Zach LaVine, okay. Otto Porter, I believe, was the small forward starter, and then Lauri Markkanen, and then Wendell Carter Jr. So some of those names have become bigger names as time went on, but they weren't at the time that Billy was brought here. Not only that, but you got to think of all these other pieces there that also started from time to time. Cameron Payne started time to time. Justin Holiday started from time to time. Cristiano Felicio started in the NBA on the Bulls from time to time before Billy got here. Now you look at this roster, you got Lonzo Ball, who some people think will become an all-star. You have Zach LaVine, who is an all-star. You have DeMar DeRozan, who is an all-star. You have Patrick Williams, who people see a lot of potential in. You have Vooch, who is an all-star, although it wasn't last year. And then you go to the bench. Kobe White, who was the starting point guard, is potentially now the third point guard. Or if you move him to shooting guard. Because you have Ayo Dosunmu, you have Alex Caruso, you have Dalen Terry, you have Kobe White, and Goran Dragic, all at this guard position. The wings, a little bit lackluster in the wing department, but you still have Javonte Green. You still have, I always mix them up, Derrick Jones Jr., I think the Bulls still have, and Troy Brown Jr. went to the Lakers. I might have mixed those two up. So you have decent depth at the forward or / wing position. And at the center, you have Vooch, and then you have Andre Drummond, Marko Simonovic, who played a really, really good game last night, and I probably butchered his name. And then you also have, a couple random pieces here and there, some two-way players. But this team has completely flipped it around, and it's a big, big part to Billy Donovan's ability to not only acquire talent, add youth that's going to be immediate impact, but also develop these players individually as well as a team overall and how to mesh them well together. And Billy Donovan has been an incredible coach for this team, and I'm very, very happy. I was happy then when it occurred, and I'm even happier now. So what do you guys think about Billy Donovan? Do you think the Bulls would have got to this position with a different coach? Are you happy with what he's done so far, or do you think that he still needs to do a couple more things to become a top coach? Tell me what you think down below. If you enjoyed this video, give me a like. If you enjoy this channel, please subscribe. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. I can't do that without your guys' help. I have daily NFL, NBA, and NHL content, so if you come back on a daily basis anyways, why not subscribe? It does a lot for us, and just any level of support truly means the world, especially for us smaller YouTubers. But as always, I hope it taught you something today. Hope it made you smile, hope it made you laugh. Something's really important to me. Affect someone else's day in a great way, because every single day can be a great day if we all just put in the effort. And as always, you guys all be safe out there.
But something deep inside won't let me quit. I swear that